Mesto jak čovek, diler ili narkoman, gledaj me kako nikoga. These are words by a young poet performer I call Jess. 2 winters ago, I saw Jess perform, standing in the middle of a tight-knit circle in a newly refurbished classroom. There was a blackboard and chalk in use, and a stove in the corner for heating, and blank walls around us, but for this hand-drawn poster of Tupac. All through Jess's performance, people in the circle kept snapping their fingers. The snapping of the fingers is a sign we use to signal to the poet we love what they're saying. It meant, I hear you, I get you, I see you. I met Jess at a new spoken word poetry program in a Macedonian prison, which is a part of my research at Cambridge, which tries to understand the lives of young men and what performing poetry means in their lives. And spoken word poetry is poetry performed live to an audience. It hails from poetry slams, hip-hop, culture and music, and jazz in the US. And the new program in the prison was a space which was creative, where young men were able to perform and compose poetry together with other artists and educators. And Jess was one of the poets' participants, whereas I was one of the poets' educators. Jess struck me as this warm, laid-back kid with an ability to make a conversation flow. We bonded over a shared appreciation for Macedonian hip-hop artists. But as we spent more time together, I realized that rap meant very different things to us. At one point, Jess said to me, I was listening to these songs and here it was, everything that I was going through, someone else has lived through it and wrote about it. I was looking at rap lyrics, whereas Jess was experiencing rap as life-affirming. And what did I know about Jess's life? During one of our long conversations at the program, Jess told me that before he was arrested, the police searched his room and treated him badly, where they found drugs in the room. And to explain how he felt about it, Jess selected this image. It is a Dixit card with a boy trapped in a music box, the floor littered with music notes. A year after the program, as I was lying in bed, I caught a glimpse of the card lying on my bookshelf and had this visceral response to it. It was gut-wrenching. I was afraid to explore it. But the next week, I found myself writing poetry in response to the card. It was research through spoken word poetry. Research through poetry was essential in gaining new knowledge into the emotional depths of Jess's experience. Research through poetry enabled me to challenge my own prejudices about young men in prison, and I connected to Jess as the person and powerful poetic voice he is. And I wish to share with you today all this through Jess's own poetry and spoken word poetry as research. In this performance, I weave together Jess's self-authored poem with the research poem. And I assume the voice of an invented character that is Jess's sister. And as a researcher, I felt uneasy writing from this perspective, but as a poet, I knew I had to take the risk and explore possibilities. Ever since I was a kid, I discovered that writing poetry could provide answers to some of my questions. And to do this, I usually rely on 3 main things. First, I trust my gut feeling. Second, I pluck up the courage to explore emotions, even though they may be unsettling. And third, I allow myself to be playful and messy without worrying too much what others may think. And in this poem, Jess's sister waits for Jess to return the night before he was arrested. And Jess's lines are his own words, and also his self-authored poem is rendered here in English translation, which he had kindly allowed me to share. Solemn, with a smile on your face you beguile, and ride along in your tall, lean friend's jeep with a cheer. Your crafty hand searches the back pockets of the jeans, filter tip on your lip, voice airing through jagged teeth, cigarette lit. Each night, as if out of smoke, your body glides through doors. How is it a body believes it is a fast forward, down the stairs, the hallway of another universe? Smuggled leafed goods, folded letters into the ether, music turned down. Past my bedtime, past curfew, not really doing homework, but waiting for you. In this room where you drew plans on walls with fluorescent pens against Dad's will, against all odds, hoping to see you home, brother, falling asleep on your folding armchair. Your legs are great fast, feet dangle numb. My eyelashes flicker then fade into walls like multiple clock hands. What's left is waves of my own gaze, sundown, you're out and about. 12 a.m. I know what you'd say, Jess. It takes a jeep and a young man to get lost in this broad-forged city of a capital, and I want to believe you. Heartless and stealthy, there are nights that forbid graffiti I would have never thought could be a life chance. For what is the distance you can walk without bending over as if pain can be contained at the small of your back, each cloud crack within earshot, ear cartilage, light to the touch of rolled up paper strips, fingers snap, then yield to clutch a hand, your head rests, napping in a girl's lap. 1 a.m. Rooftop, 3 boys, eyes rolling, breeze running through an old swimming pool. You know, sis, that boy from down the block, the one who talked a lot in school. We used to share choco biscuits on the steps in elementary. He got so high tonight. Was his first time. Got ferociously clingy. I had to hit him. Bust his jaw in front of our door. 2 a.m. I am turning in bed and you are a no-show. The lines of time passing by are being drawn onto the blackboard of a sleepless night. It's been no sound. Not after the police searched your room with relentless grasp in their hands, your contact lens, a periscope. The muted sounds from the stereo, a platinum record in your mind, this room of pricey rhymes, a music box. And what you said on your way, it's okay, sis. It's okay. If someone asks, just say, I go in and out of prison just like that, only for a day. If someone asks, just say, in and out, as if out of thin air. There are not so many words and teeth in a mouth, brother, to let it all slip. Because lips flick a sound in solitary that cannot spell itself out. And even though you say school is not your thing, you will write it all in your poetry. The whole day I was at home. But when you've got half a kilo weed lying around, you cannot sit still. Your head keeps spinning. A joint doesn't work on its own. So I called up a few of my friends not to be alone. The whole day, weed kept burning. Spliff after spliff, night fell deep. I was chilling with two of my kids, riding in the Jeep. That vehicle got really run down. We were laughing out loud. But the feeling was like a last breath. I got back home at 5. At 5:10, I heard police vans outside and got up to check through the peephole. I unlocked the door. There was no one on our floor. Just the pitch black darkness in the cold hallway. If I have to describe it, it would be grey. The next day, in broad daylight, some awful and pretty nasty things took place in which I was arrested. All neighbors saw the way I was treated. Dangerous gangs, bad influence. If you want to stay true, you will be screwed. They see me as a tough man, a drug lord, a junkie. Instead, see me as no one. It was noon. As I was floored, Mum popped up by the window on the first floor, saw me lying on the ground, and months from then she said I wanted to jump straight down and put my arms around you. This research poem showed me that I'd failed to see the scope of Jess's trauma and the loss of dignity he went through, being subjected to police brutality and public shaming. Jess was able to voice his trauma during the performance at the open mic with dignity and respect from our creative community. And I still grapple with questions how poetry as research can be truly empathetic, while also bear in mind how I work through my own stereotypes and how crime affects the lives of other people. But unmistakably, prisons are places that harbor trauma. And we fail young people when, as people and as researchers, we refuse to listen to them and refuse to place emotions at the core of exploring young lives. And poetry as research has the capacity to open up lives in an insightful, humanizing, curious ways, challenging prejudices. And poetry as a research method will not have answers to many other questions. But we need a multiplicity of research methods. And cultivating poetry as research and research through poetry can enable us to share multiplicity of voices and viewpoints. The first time I saw Jess, he said, "School is not really my thing." The last time I saw Jess, he said to me, "Maybe this here, the program, was some sort of school for me." It was the day he went back home to his family. And I came back to Cambridge to write about Jess's life. How do I do this? I am told to be objective to further knowledge. Whose knowledge? What kind of knowledge? Why not Jess's subjective knowledge? Why not knowledge obtained through poetry as research? If I want to get to know you, if I care to know you, I would have to know your emotional truth. And poetry as research gets at an emotional truth that can change our worldviews and make us connect as people. Thank you.